Okay, I think it's recording. Welcome. This is episode 3 of the DWalkerFitness podcast. I'm joined with Janine, the director I've got here of the Diamonds Fitness Pageant and the show director for Pure Elite, which is pretty amazing. This is a really pleasant surprise. We spoke just beforehand. I'm a little bit nervous, and it's kind of, I don't know, a big deal. I'm not going to say she's my boss, but it's like someone to look up to and see who's very successful. And I want to do something similar in the industry. So I thought it'd be good to speak to you, ask kind of everyone on Instagram some, like, what have they got to ask you? I've got a few little questions I like to ask and just kind of get to know you a little bit better. And then just kind of roll with it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be. Thank you for asking me. It means a lot. So yeah.
That's brilliant. We did an interview just before the Worlds, and that was very surreal. So when I asked you to come on here, I thought that'd be pretty interesting. So I get to ask the questions this time round and see where we end up.
It's fun to think about the interview before the Worlds and your thought process going into it and all the things you wanted to achieve, and then what you achieved coming out of it. Like, I think that's quite exciting, actually. Maybe we should do a follow-up interview and we can kind of pin them together. That's a good idea. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah, why not? No, that's brilliant. Right. What we'll do then, I'll kind of go through a few of the questions and try and see where we end up. The first thing, my question to you is: so, who is Janine? And then, like, what is it you do? And can you explain to kind of the listeners and the viewers?
So I'm Janine Armstrong, and as you mentioned, I am the director of Diamonds Fitness Pageant, which is a beauty pageant meets fitness modeling mashup, which is a female-only show. That's quite exciting. We can probably talk more about that later. I am now I have been the entire time, the events director of Pure Elite, which is Europe's largest fitness modelling show. And I am the person that is in charge of running the entire event on the day and making sure everything goes smoothly and according to plan. And if you've ever been to a show or competed at a show, you will know that that's quite a large job, especially at Pure Elite, with the size and the venues and everything of that nature. And other than that, who am I personally? I am, I guess, a gobby northerner with a big attitude and a desire to succeed.
That's brilliant.
How I would describe myself.
No, that's what I love that. No, that's great. When you mentioned about the show, I don't know how you do it. I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start. There's so many moving parts. Like, we just turn up and we just go, right, your tan's here, this is what you do, this is the day, off you go. And then you see all the moving parts and you think, man, that's a lot of stress.
And it's so funny as well, because there's loads of things that people don't see as well. There's things that, people aren't meant to see. I think at Pure Elite and being the events director, I think it's a job that I can potentially excel at, because I'm a natural overthinker. I'm an over worrier, and I think about every minute detail of everything. I don't think it's necessarily healthy, but in the aspect of planning an event, it is quite useful, because it allows you to think of nearly every possible outcome, which allows you to plan in great detail. Yeah. So I think the reason why I'm capable of doing it is because of the ability to overthink.
Brilliant. No, I like that. I think I'm very similar in regards to the overthinking. And I think as maybe as a competitor, that's not the best thing. I think I worry about the even minute little things, and I just want to be able to relax. But no, I can't even imagine what it must be like to run the show. So I'm not glad I'm not doing that. But no, shows. I've already been to 2 technically. So and every show's been ran super smoothly, no problems. Tan's been great, everything's been great. It's everyone's very welcoming, and everyone I spoke to backstage has just said, yeah, Pure Elite's the best show I've done. Everyone's super happy, everyone's really nice, and if you've got any problems, you can just ask people. And yeah, I've heard nothing but amazing things, and I've only ever experienced amazing things too. So You do a good job.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. It's one of
Yeah.
the reasons that Pure Elite started was just because one of the biggest reasons is Stuart and I wanted athletes to be treated fairly, and we wanted them to have an incredible time and leave with really good memories and leave, you know, having enjoyed it and with a really, really good experience. So whenever, literally, it never gets old when people say they really enjoyed themselves, because that is my whole motive for doing any of this, is that people enjoy themselves. If they're not enjoying themselves, then it's, why am I doing it? So it's always good to hear people have had a good time and they enjoyed it, and it was a good experience for them.
No, brilliant. My friend Charlie, who you have met, he said the best thing about the show is the tan. He says that's his favourite part of everything. He's got a experience, and he would just go to do the show purely for the tan and the experience. Brilliant. Another question, kind of going back to kind of reality, but like people have asked me, how have you been during lockdown and the show is not going ahead, and how that's impacted you? And people are questioning, saying, hope Janine and Pure Elite's okay and stuff like that. So
it's been it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So at the moment, I used to work full time for Pure Elite, but I actually don't anymore. So I'm only involved with anything around show days specifically. So for me personally, I've not really had much to do at the moment with regards to Pure Elite. So Stuart is currently doing all that himself due to us being in lockdown, due to everything around it. He's kind of had to let some staff members go, and so for me personally, around Pure Elite, it's weird when the dates have gone past and it should have been show day and I've been sat at home. It's surreal. It's really strange, because in the lead up to a show, you spend about 6 weeks beforehand building up, and things get more and more hectic, and that just hasn't happened this year. So it's interesting, the fact that Pure Elite's been around for 7 years, but this year there's not been a show, which is strange. But the show at the end of the year, the Worlds on the 24th of October, should be going ahead. So I'm looking forward to that, and just kind of focusing on being able to get into prep mode for that.
Yeah. And that'll be a momentous occasion as well to see.
Oh, it'll be so exciting to see everyone. It's gonna be such a different show, just because of how even more excited we're all going to be together. I think people are, excited going into it anyway, but I think given the circumstance, I think it's going to be a really epic experience in every aspect. So I'm looking forward to it. And just everybody's energy, and feeding off everybody's energy on show day. It's going to be awesome.
No, that's amazing. I think I'm going to try and get down. I'm going to see how business is from my end, and kind of how the dates line up, and see how, because the gym's been closed. We just don't know where we are or what's going on and how things are going to be. So we'll see. I did have a client who was meant to be competing there, and I think her boyfriend or someone's got a wedding on that day, and she's been invited. So it's like, we're not sure. I'm trying to persuade her to do the show, but we'll see. But yeah, it's one of them. But I'm sure it'll be an amazing day. Right, we'll go to the next question. So someone says, where did the name Pure Elite come from, and where did you get the inspiration for the logo?
So it always makes me laugh when I think about that. So Pure Elite wasn't like, we weren't just sat around thinking about the show and was like, we should call it this. It was a process of elimination. And Stuart had this idea of what he wanted the name to represent and what he wanted it to sound like, and we came up with all these different words that embodied what we wanted people to think and about Pure Elite. And it was basically just a process of elimination and seeing what we liked, and also what was available to buy as I'm forgetting the word, the domain. Website domain. So it wasn't like this, we're going to call it this. It was like, we want to do a show. These are the words that we like. What do we like and what's available? And the logo that was designed along with a graphic designer, I the only input I had on that was deciding which was my favourite out of a long list of options that were sent to us. But that was mainly Stuart and the graphic designer that came up with that look.
No, I love that. It was always I always thought, I wonder where the name came from and where you got the logo from. And no, it's no, I love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I really wish I could turn around and be like, we got the name from this and this, but it was like, no, this is kind of what we liked, what we were left with.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Right, I'll keep blasting through. I've got quite a few. So someone says, what advice would you give to a first-time pure elite bikini competitor? So I think my client actually asked me this.
So my advice, first and foremost, well, I've actually got a lot of advice. I won't give one piece of advice, but the strongest piece of advice I would say is practice your posing. And I am sure people are sick and tired of hearing me say that. But I think a lot of thought process goes into that, how we're going to look. So as an athlete, and when I used to compete, I was used to think about like how I'm going to look, what my diet is, and what I'm exercising. You put a lot into that, and that's the majority of your thought process. But not enough people put time into how they're going to present themselves on stage. Yeah. And as you know, when you get to a show, a large majority of people look absolutely insane. Everybody looks amazing, and of course everybody looks amazing because they've been dieting and exercising for months on end. Yeah. So everybody looks great. Like everybody's body looks fantastic, and in comparison to the average person, everybody looks insane. And then, which is going to be a given. So when you get on stage, it's all very well and good looking good and having a good physique. But if you're not presenting that, you've kind of done yourself a disservice, and you've essentially not entirely wasted, but you've wasted the dieting and exercising and training if you've come to stage and you've not come with the idea to present yourself properly. Yeah. And to not, like, I know some people want to compete just to take part, which when I competed, I wasn't necessarily focused on being a top 5. I just really wanted to have the experience. Yeah. So if you're coming just for the experience, then still practice your posing. But if you're a person who is wanting to come and place top 5, you want to make a career off the back of it, then you really need to be focusing on your posing as much as you are focusing on your diet, nutrition, exercise, everything else. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I remember when the first posing workshop I went to, and you kept going on about the posing, and I knew it was important, but I didn't realize till you look back and you think, I spent maybe an hour every day posing, but I could have done a bit better. And then when I competed at the Worlds, and then after I finished my category, I went and watched the rest, people would come out and you would just think, wow, like that physique is incredible. And then they would walk forward and they wouldn't know what to do, and the posing would be completely off. And I'm like, it's very important. I knew it was important, but not that important, and it can really make or break a physique. And I never realized how important it was, but posing, I think, is very undervalued. And again, you keep reiterating how important it is, but I couldn't agree more, even now more than ever. It's mad. Like when we spoke last time in the interview for the little video shoot we did, I remember yourself and Stuart were saying we need to go over your posing again. Like everyone have a check, let's double check. And I thought, man, it's posing. Like, okay, I'm more than happy to have a look. And then I was happy. And then when I watched my footage back, I'm thinking I could have been better than that. And I still practice posing now. Even I haven't got a show, but I'll still practice and think, I don't know. And I think a lot of people lose a lot of places just because the posing's terrible.
One of the things you've got to think about is let's say we'll take a male fitness model, and we'll just say the amateur categories, and you've got 5 guys and they all are very similar shapes, similar body balance, similar height. Everything about them is relatively similar. They've all got great physiques. What are you going to do against the next person to make you stand out? And that's when it comes down to your posing, which is why I was saying earlier that everybody's going to look great. Yeah. What are you going to do as an individual to stand out? And that is where you practice your posing. but also just make sure you're so well practiced that you are confident in what you're doing, so that your confidence can shine through on stage, because that's how you're going to stand out.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to look great. Like, make sure that you are confident and prepared to be on stage.
No, I couldn't agree more. I remember the first show, seeing the person in front of me posing, and I just thought, that looks incredible. And I was just like, oh no, mine isn't good enough. And it was like, yeah, I don't know. I just really love the posing and say like Josh Blues is just super smooth and people can learn a lot from him. And it's like, yeah, make or break. And people don't pose enough. I've been telling my client who it would be her first show to just keep posing and keep practicing. And we came to one of the workshops just before lockdown hit, and we just learned a few things from Lucy, and she practices every day, even because all she knows is the basic walk, but she'll still practice, put the heels on, and I said it's everything. It's everything. Just be confident and enjoy the day. But yeah, no, that's a great. That's what I would have been. Yeah.
Actually, on that is that the reason why we always say practice, 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 and as you was mentioning that you practice often and daily when you need to practice daily, that your client was practicing daily, is that because even when you are super confident, so I'm an ex-dancer, and my first time on stage, I didn't practice posing nowhere near enough. Like, I'll put my hands up, nowhere near enough at all. And because I performed on stage a lot of times, I didn't assume that I was going to be nervous going on. I was like, it's going to be fine. I've been on stage like hundreds of times. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then when it was like, Janine, you're up next, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how to walk. Like, the idea of putting one foot in front of the other seemed monumental. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And the woman was just like, smile, and one foot in front of the other. And I'm like, okay, I've got this. And that's my arrogance of assuming that I know what I'm doing. I don't need to practice. I'm already naturally very confident, and I'll know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You don't realize that nerves are going to come out of nowhere and potentially attack. So that's the reason to be very well practiced, because even if you get super nervous, the fact that you've practiced will just come into play, and you can kind of, if you are nervous, you can kind of fake your way through it if you're well practiced. If you're not, you're going to get on stage and make an idiot out of yourself.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think like practicing quarter turns and getting used to that and holding those poses for as long as you can really helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you never know how long you're going to be there for.
No.
And it's, I think the more shows you do, the more confident you'll get. But yeah, I think no matter what you think it's going to be like, you've not done it before, so you don't know how you're going to react. I was an absolute wreck when we stood backstage. I was a wreck, and when I did on the very first show, I did a few categories, and then the second category was men's physique, and it was a slightly different pose routine, but I'd practiced it a million times. Got to the front, and I forgot what I was doing. Completely forgot what I was doing. Didn't know where I was, and that was just kind of instinct kind of took over, and I didn't look too bad. It wasn't the best, but I managed to.
You did amazingly well.
Scrape something out.
That show.
It wasn't bad. It was. I look back and I remember getting off stage thinking, "Man, that was terrible. I completely forgot. I didn't do any of my routine." And then my mate was like, "Look at the footage. It wasn't that bad. I didn't know you made a mistake because you flow quite nice." And I thought, "Oh, but yeah, I think posing is everything." And like you said a million times in the posing workshops, is you spend all that time getting the body you want, to let it all go by just some bad posing is horrible. You're spending 12 to 16 weeks dieting for 30 seconds on stage, and then you look terrible because your posing is terrible. So you've wasted all that time, and then you've got to come out of the show. You've got to then do another show just to get your posing right. And I think it's very undervalued. I could talk about that all day.
Yes.
Right, we'll go on to the next one. So another question from another bikini kind of competitor says, what is the difference between fitness and bikini at Pure Elite?
So at Pure Elite specifically, and we'll include Diamonds in this as well.
Yes.
So at a fitness model, you need to have more visible muscle mass. So two good athletes to look at would be, so if anybody watching this, if you go look at Lauren Calladine, her Instagram is Lauren J Calladine, and she is a Diamonds pageant queen, so she's an overall Diamonds winner, and she always does very well at Pure Elite. She's one of our top Pure Elite pros. She is a bikini junior champion, a bikini champion. She's won a lot of categories, has placed top 3 overall, etc. So she is bikini. If you look at Lauren, she's in great shape. She's very toned and she's lean. And now if you go look at someone like Jade Abbott, or Michelle Mensah, those two are our 2 recent fitness and pro world champions. Yeah. And they have really big, thick quads. They have visible quad muscle. They have abs. You can see their shoulder caps, their biceps. They have a fitness model physique, meaning that you can see their muscle mass, you can see their muscle separation, and they're very lean. So that's one of the biggest differences. Is that the fact that they've got developed quads, developed shoulders, and you can see their muscle. Bikini, you want to look really nice and lean and toned, such as a Lauren Calladine or an Amelia Tank. So I encourage you to check out those 4 athletes as a comparison. And if anybody doesn't know who they are, you can definitely message me or Damien, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction of their Instagram, so you can go and take a look.
Yeah, no, perfect. I love that, and nice examples there as well.
Yeah.
They're perfect. Spot on. Right. Next question. So another competitor, going to use his Instagram name, he's asked me, he says, make sure you ask Janine this question. He says, what does Janine think of Damien's moustache?
I think it looks good. Is this someone trying to make you get rid of it?
Maybe, yeah. I only did it because of lockdown. I thought, why not have a bit of a tash and kind of the Chris Bumstead tash just for a bit of a laugh? Because I don't
know what? It looks good.
I'll take that. Thank you very much. I'm just going to.
It's because it's full. It's full. I think when you've got sparse facial, if someone's got sparse facial hair, and I mean really wispy, then maybe, in my personal opinion, avoid it. But if you can grow thick facial hair, go for it. Right. This is all I can pretty much grow. I can't grow anything else. It's like this and a tiny bit there. It looks good.
I'll take that. I'm just going to clip this little bit and just post this video. I appreciate that. Thank you. Right, next one. This is quite a long question. So, show day is a memorable day for everyone involved, but I imagine there's a lot of prep that goes behind the scenes for making the day run smoothly. When do you start planning the big day, and what role do you play? So you kind of mentioned it, what you do per se. So let's just say the show's coming up. How long would it take for you to kind of prepare for the show and get the arena and everything else?
So I'll give you 2 examples. So the first show we ever did took a year to prepare for, I think just over a year.
Wow.
So basically, as soon as a venue is booked, our end, so we obviously know the venue date most of the time before we release it, for a week or 2 before it's released. Work starts immediately from then. If you want me to be more specific, we have a process by where, if you sign up to compete, you fill out all your information online, you make your payment, it comes through to us. That will kind of wait for 7 days. Past that 7-day period is then when we start working on incorporating every athlete into the show. So from whenever that first person enters, that's when the work starts. It starts to get a lot more kind of, so work's done daily when things are running normally. Not at the moment, obviously, given the circumstances we're in, but little things happen daily for each show. And then around 6 weeks before is when we really start tying everything in together and making sure that everything's coming together in the smooth fashion that it needs to in order for show day to be what it is.
Okay.
And what do? I basically do a lot of the administration around it, a lot of liaising with the venues, tanners, hair and makeup, anything that you can think of that happens on show day is what I am involved with.
Right.
Which is a lot. There's a list.
It's a lot, yeah.
With it, but there's a lot.
It's a crazy thing, and one of my biggest regrets is not going to see a show before I competed, and that was one thing I wanted to do but couldn't quite do it, things
Yeah.
are coming up and whatever else. But if you haven't been to a show, it's the spectacle itself is pretty amazing. It's a long day, but well worth the watch. And if you're thinking about competing, I would highly recommend going to watch the show first, just to see what you get yourself in for. I wish I did that. That was a mistake from me. But yeah, it's amazing.
That is another top tip actually for any athletes take away, is to go and watch the show that you are competing in. Especially sometimes people go and watch different kinds of shows, and then might go and watch a bodybuilding show and be like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, then come to a fitness model show, and they're actually two very different things. They might be in the same industry, but they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum of the same, line. So definitely, if you are watching this, you are thinking about competing, and you have the availability to go and watch a show beforehand, then 100% go and watch it, because it gives you a better idea for the day, kind of what happens on stage. And you also get to see what we were speaking about earlier when we were talking about people posing, and you get to see great posing and kind of in the middle posing, and you get to see why it's so important that you practice your posing going into a show.
Yeah, lovely. No, that's spot on, absolutely spot on. And I think you said about the posing as well. You'll see someone who might be competing in a different federation, but bodybuilder style, and they come into this, and then you see them pulling out the poses, and you're thinking they haven't done the research. So that they look great, but they're not doing the right poses, and they're not. It's one of them. You can kind of. It's
frustrating, isn't it? And it's a little bit heartbreaking, because it's like, you look amazing, but you're not doing what you need to or meant to be doing.
Yeah.
So
no, spot on. This question from the same person, actually. What do you look forward to the most on show day? So I know you must be stressing a lot and worrying about things going right. Do you ever get a moment where you think, I look forward to this moment, or are you always just thinking about maybe what could go wrong? Or
this sounds awful, and I probably this taken just as a clip out of context will sound awful. I look forward to the day after.
Yeah.
Because there is so much to think about. There's so much going on. And I'm just so in the moment. I don't ever really get to enjoy it, because I spend most of the time firefighting. So there'll be like, some things happen. I'm like, okay, I need to go fix this. I need to go do that. This needs doing. So I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it, but I've never left a show being like, that went really well, because there's always things that I would want to do different, things that I didn't go exactly how I would want or not to plan. So I never leave a show satisfied. I'm never like, that was amazing. I'm always like, oh, this is a list of things that we need to make sure don't happen again.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's the difference between a good kind of, I don't know whether it's host or event organizer does, is looking at the parts that they can improve. But no, spot on. I like that.
I always feel bad. I feel like I should be going, I love it. But it's like, no, I've got so much to think about. I'm so worried and busy thinking, is everybody else having a good time? Is everything going to plan? That I'm like, once it's over and done with and everybody survived, I'm like, yes, okay.
I've done it. Yeah, no, great. Brilliant. Next one is, has anyone ever got stage fright before?
Oh, yes. Sometimes people to the point of where they won't go on stage. No, it's only happened in 7 years. It's probably happened 2 or 3 times. There was one woman, she was so nervous that she wouldn't go on.
Man.
And I was like, but you've done, I follow a lot of people end up competing on Instagram, or just kind of see their stories from tags. And I'm like, you've been prepping for this. You've been through quite a bit personally. I'm like, you've got all the way here. Your hair and makeup's done. Your tan's done. You're in the line. Just step on. It's not going to be as bad as what you've made it out to be in your head. You're actually going to go on, and you're probably really going to enjoy it. You're going to leave being really proud of yourself that you've done something that was quite scary, that is out of your comfort zone. There's going to be an element of growth off of that time period that you're on stage. It's undoubtable there is for anybody that steps on, especially the first time competing. You have, by just being on stage, you've grown as a person. And she couldn't. She was crying. She just couldn't make it on.
Man.
And a few other people that do get really nervous and they're kind of shaking, but then me and the team will just kind of like really big them up backstage and be like, you're going to be fine. And then, you know, speak to them for a few minutes. Another girl was really nervous. I took her to the side and spoke to her for like 5 minutes before going on stage. And I managed to calm her down. She got on and she really, really enjoyed the experience. So it does happen.
Yeah, I thought that would be me personally. But no, I think it is a scary thing. And one of the best moments I've ever had with Pure Elite was literally the very first show, was just doing the picture at the beginning, the athletes parade. I remember walking out and I was like, I'm not going out. So me, Charlie and Lee, we waited till the last people, and they were like, you guys need to go on. And I don't want to go on. Like, I don't want to go on. And then we came out and we were at the front, the very front. I remember looking at Charlie, and he'll back me up on the story. He looked at me. I looked at him. I thought, mate, we've done it. We're on stage. And I started to get teary-eyed. He started to get teary-eyed. And I told him after, I said, mate, I couldn't cry because I'd ruined my tan. And he said the same thing. And it was just pure emotion and relief. It was like, that's what the stage feels like. So then when you came to the walks and the actual competing, it wasn't as bad as, well, as scary, but yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you say that, because it's one of the things that we'd say to people when people go, I don't really want to do the parade. It's like, do the parade because you get to be on stage with 100 to 300 other people, and you're not on stage for the first time by yourself. So go on stage as a group, go and take part in the group photo, feel the atmosphere of everybody you're with, the spectators, and kind of let that be your first moment, because it takes away some of the edge a little bit. Another thing that I would recommend to people as well, which people always think this is a little bit of a crazy thing to say, but visualize yourself being on stage, visualize yourself being nervous, how it's going to feel, what you're going to do. I don't just mean with the practicing of the posing, but I mean like imagine being on stage, because imagine it in a positive way, not in a negative, scary way. Like, be like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to love it. I'm going to smile. The crowd's going to go wild. Really, really big yourself up, because then it's not going to be, some people build it up in the other way, like the lady I was telling you about, and she made it such a big thing in her mind that she was like, I can't do this. It's going to be the scariest thing I've ever done and I can't do it. So I think if you are someone, you know, you're quite nervous, you know, you're naturally maybe a nervous person, I would start also, you know, bringing that element into being like, I'm going to be on stage, it's going to be amazing and I'll love it. So then it's not as terrifying when it comes to the time. Yeah.
No, I think I couldn't agree. Great advice. There's a lot of good advice in this podcast so far. I'm enjoying this. I wish I would have seen this beforehand. Where are we? Next one says, what is your favorite Pure Elite category, if you have one?
I'm going to say the transformation, because some of the stories are mind-blowing, and the things that people have overcome and mentally, physically battled with their health to kind of get on stage and present a newer version of themselves, I always find very inspiring, very humbling, and it's just a really nice, it's just a great aspect of the show. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that. So yeah.
No, that's I was going to say the same thing. I remember seeing it originally and wasn't sure, and I thought transformation. And then when we got there, we spoke to people, and it was like, "What are you doing?" And it's like transformation. It's like, yeah, but you look great. You could compete in any of these categories, and they tell you the story behind how they got there. I'm not going to say them now because some are quite deep stories, but you're blown away what people have been through, and you just think. And then just to show it off on stage is another thing. And then they got the amazing photos after. It's a life-changing experience, really.
Yeah, it is a category I like a lot. That's one that Stuart created, having gone through his own transformation due to his own personal health issues. So I think that's another reason as well, because it is a category that is quite close to home in comparison to some of the others. So yeah, I'd say the transformation category. I mean, all of them are amazing to watch, but that one just kind of gets you in your emotions a little bit.
Yeah, especially because you show the pictures, don't you, on the stage of what the actual transformation. That's mad.
There was one once where the the picture was on the back and the person went out, and I was like, oh my gosh, they've gone out onto the wrong photo. We need to find the right person. We're going to have to bring them back and put them on the end to make sure they go out to the right photo. And it was her. And she had such a transformation. And I'm absolutely panicking at the side of the stage going, oh my gosh, quick, get me her name. We need to go and find this. And Lucy was like, it's her. Like, calm down. And I was like, oh my gosh, she looks like a completely, I can't remember how much weight she'd lost, but the two people just looked so different. And I just remember just being kind of like jaw-dropping kind of moment. And to be honest, they're all pretty much like that. Most of the stories on there, you're all like, wow, you incredible human.
Yeah, no, amazing. I think it's, yeah, it's hard to put into words when you see it and you see what people go through, but no, it's amazing. Right, we're slowly getting there. Next one. So this is completely different to kind of purely, this is just kind of not a personal question, but what kind of it? It's where's your favorite place you've ever traveled to? Someone said, so holiday or destination.
So I got asked this on a podcast that I did last week, but it was more like of a quick fire question. Yeah. And I put Dubai and then Scotland,
yeah,
which I appreciate are two very different things. They're both, it's hard to pick. So I went to Scotland for my honeymoon. So I think that's why I really enjoyed it. It's very beautiful, scenic, and there weren't a lot of people around. Yeah. And this is probably surprising to many people, but I'm actually quite an introverted person. Mm-hmm. And I know that's really hard, being that I'm so loud and can talk quite confidently and speak to anybody. I prefer to spend a lot of time by myself. So I really liked Scotland because there was just no one else around. You didn't see anybody for like 5 days, and it was just me and Stuart. So that was nice. Yeah. But one of the things that I really like about Dubai is the weather and the level of service you get at the hotels. Yeah. You're treated like royalty in Dubai, everybody and anybody. So I really like that aspect. So my two places I would recommend is Scotland or Dubai. Nice.
No, that's brilliant. I've been to Scotland. I've never been to Dubai. It's kind of on the to-do list to go. Don't know when that's going to be now, but yeah.
Why did you go in Scotland?
Just to Aberdeen. But that's it. I've been looking at other places. Girlfriend wants to go to a few, and it's like, do we drive? Do we get a plane? It's kind of a bit far.
Drive. So we drove from Kent. So remember where we live. Yeah. So we drove from Kent all the way up, and we went around the North Coast. The North Coast 500, it's called. So if you do drive and you're into driving, if you're someone who enjoys driving, take a look at that, the North Coast 500, and you go and drive around. It's just incredible. It's beautiful. I can't explain it. Go and check it out. Find some things on YouTube, and go and do it. It's strange because when we was driving around, you would go around like kind of these corners, and then you would see for miles, and it would be breathtaking. And then you kind of go around another corner and see another like 100 miles, but not the same view. It's beautiful, it's surreal, and it's on your doorstep as well. So anybody who is in the United Kingdom who hasn't ever been around Scotland or the north coast of Scotland and you like driving, I 1000% recommend it.
Right, that'll be my next trip. There'll be loads of purely athletes just driving around. Yeah. I do love driving, and it sounds like a plan. Car's currently getting fixed, which is not nice, but when it's back, that'll be something that I'll plan and let you know how that goes.
Yeah, put it on your bucket list.
Next one, another random question. It says, if you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 items would you take with you?
I remember being asked this, and I came up with a really smart answer, and I can't remember what it was. It was something about like 3 things that would help me escape.
Yeah.
Food, water, and lots of sun cream to make sure I don't burn. And I would sit on this island happily ever after. So that's what I'd do.
No, brilliant. Next one says, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I love this question because it's so exciting, because who knows? Where would I like to be in 5 years' time? Oh, gosh. I would like to see, this is a hard one. Okay, so what things would I like to be happening around me in 5 years' time? I would like to see Purely in a lot more countries. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that Stuart's got planned for the future of Pure Elite and for the athletes, which I won't go into because one, I don't explain it as well as he does, and two, I don't know how much has been how much is shared with people yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing all that come into fruition and seeing where Pure Elite will be in 5 years and the growth that will have happened. I'm looking forward to seeing Diamonds being in more locations. That was meant to be the case for this year, but unfortunately with everything that's gone on, it's not happened. And I don't know, myself personally, I'm really getting into YouTube and doing like clothing and talking about clothes and fashion. So I'd like to see where that might potentially end up.
Brilliant.
So I don't know, I would like to just look back in 5 years' time and be somewhere completely different to where I am now in every aspect of life, except for my husband. I'd like to keep him. Everything.
That's great. I think one of the questions was about Pure Elite, and he said about going into other countries, and I've seen again a few of the Instagrammers popping up with different countries and different locations and different shows. So a question I've got, and I thought was I've always wanted to know, was like, how do you get your inspiration to go, right, this is where we want to go next? So let's say we want to go to, say, Romania came up, or Australia, and then like how would you plan that? So you can't just like call someone up and say, I want to do a show in this country. So this is what, like, where do you get the inspiration for that, and how do you start the process?
So Stuart's pretty much the pioneer and the risk taker with that. I'm nowhere near as big a risk taker as Stuart. I think we balance each other out. So Stuart's kind of the person that's like, I'd always wanted to do something in this country, and then he will either just end up having conversations with people where things come together, or we'll just go, we're doing it here, and then we'll go in and we'll plan it ourselves. So there's a few different scenarios by where a show has come around. So it just kind of, it's serendipitous, I guess, is just the fact that it's just kind of happens. But most of the time it's just as simple as Stuart goes, right, we're going here, and I'll just follow his lead.
I like that. A little bit risky, but I think it's one of them, and I don't know why you guys wouldn't succeed. And everything I've seen so far, everything looks like it's growing very well, and it just seems to be going from strength to strength. And I look forward to seeing the expansion and the world domination of Pure Elite.
Me too.
I love that. Another question, which I think is quite interesting, is someone said, if you weren't doing this, so let's just say you woke up tomorrow and Pure Elite wasn't the thing, and you had to do something else, what would you do?
So if you'd have asked me this last year, so if I'd never done Pure Elites, I would probably have always worked in events, because I always wanted to work in events. Like I remember there's a few times I've shared this online, like where when I've been 20 years old, 21 years old, and I'm like, you just randomly type stuff on social media, and I'm like on Twitter or on Facebook going, I just really want to work in events. Will someone give me a job in events? I'll do anything. And then 5 years later, which is interesting that you asked me the question before, because 5 years later, if someone had said to me at 21, oh yeah, you'll be working in events, I'd have been like, that is amazing. Yes, finally. I never envisioned that from 20 to the age of 25, that I would not only be working in events, but it'd be my own business in this industry. I would have never, ever in a million years foreseen that. Like, it wouldn't have been a thing. So when people ask about 5 years, what do you think will happen in 5 years? I'm like, I have no idea. And I hope it's just crazy and magical. And I hope that it's that I'll have one thought process about doing something and it'll come into fruition. At the moment, if I wasn't doing anything fitness related, at the moment, I'm kind of really into anything that's clothing or fashion related. So I'd probably look at pursuing something in that arena.
Oh, brilliant. I think, when people say 5 years' time, I think it's very tough, because you might have a vision for something, but you never kind of know what's going to happen. I didn't think I'd be trying to make a little podcast up and competing, and that was always a dream and never really on the cards. I guess so. Sorry, I quit you there.
No, you just never know what's going to happen, which is what's exciting. I think everyone should always have a plan, because then you kind of know what steps you're going in, but just be open to absolutely anything happening. I really like the idea of being in that 5 years time. When I look back, I hope that there will be a lot of difference and not just little things. Like, I hope it will be as big as from being 20 to 25. So we'll see what happens.
No, and again, another spot on answer. I think we're going to go through. I think. Yeah, there was a question earlier which you kind of spoke about was, have you ever competed before? And you mentioned that you have done. And then would you ever compete again? I know you said you can't compete in your own federation, but is there any desire to do that at all?
No, I'll be honest. I've done it twice.
Yeah.
And when you've competed, I know, which is why I have so much respect for athletes. I know what you all go through to get stage ready. And the first time I did it, I actually found it really easy. Yeah. The second time, I struggled a lot mentally, and I just don't know. I don't have what it takes mentally to do it again.
Yeah.
For me personally. So I love the industry and I love being a part of it, and I have massive respect for everybody that gets on stage, because I know what it entails, not just physically but mentally, and all the things that people go through. So no, I would never do it again. I like the idea of it. I love the idea of being like, transforming into a fitness model and having like amazing shoulders and really sick quads and being in a really sparkly bikini on stage. I love the idea of it, but I just know that I can't get myself there.
No, that's fair enough. That's all the questions that I've been sent there. So there's about 15 to 20 questions there. I think that covers everything. I haven't got any more questions. You've answered everything that I've also wanted to know. So that is pretty amazing. I do hope as well, like yourself and Stuart are both healthy and everything's good during lockdown and currently, and everyone's okay. It is a bit of a crazy time that we're in.
How have you been doing during lockdown?
What you said earlier about being like a bit of an introvert, like for me, my life hasn't really changed apart from not being able to go and do personal training and coach and run the gym and whatever else. I've just kind of been doing online coaching all of a sudden, and then just relaxing. Done a lot behind the scenes to try and promote stuff in the gym and like business things, but nothing's really changed. I've been okay. At first, when we initially locked down and we couldn't leave, that was a bit strange. But then again, I'd just jump on the Xbox and relax, and I'd be okay. Not seeing family was a bit strange, but been okay. I look forward to things getting back to normal, well, the normal. But I also think I don't want to say get my hopes up, or because we don't know what's going to happen. So we could say, right, the gym's going to open in 2 weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time, or 4 weeks' time, or whatever, and then we could get a second spike, and then all of a sudden everything's closed again. And I've learned to say not get my hopes up and just roll with the days, trying to plan as best I can with myself and everything else, but then not, because I get messages every day, when's the gym going to reopen, when's this going to happen? Yeah. I don't speak to Boris directly, like I don't know. That's
what I've been telling people.
Yeah. And it's like people are getting restless, and it's like I'm like, it's life and death. This isn't a joke.
Yeah.
This is real life, and we have to take this seriously. And I think a lot of people aren't taking it seriously, and people are just being like, oh, whatever, we're past it now. And I think I'm very cautious, and I like to keep myself to myself. I've never been kind of a people person as much. Like I don't have many friends. I just have a close knit group of friends, and that's literally it. So nothing's really changed too much. But I think I look forward to seeing some familiar faces and just slowly getting back to reality. But no, I've been okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as you. Besides, take the show aspects out of it and them not happening, which is it's odd. Seeing as that the majority of our lives is kind of processed around the fitness world. So for all that to kind of come to a stop, but I don't go anywhere unless it's work related. And I live in Kent, and my family all live in Leeds, so I'm quite far from them anyway, and my nearest friend lives in Bristol, so I don't have anybody near me anyway, so I don't, so for me it's not really, nothing's changed except there's not as much pure elite work to do or Diamonds work to do, so other than that, it's pretty much the same for me as well. So I think on that aspect, we're quite lucky. I have friends who are very extroverted and they want to be here, there and everywhere. And they've been struggling quite a lot.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people are losing their minds a little bit.
Yeah, I am hoping for some kind of normality. There's been times where I just want to go to the shop, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to have to get a mask on. I've got to do all this, got to queue outside. I just wanted to go get some crisps. So I guess I won't get in any.
Yeah. Life is slowly changing. So I went to Sainsbury's yesterday and the same thing, got my mask ready. I thought, oh man, I just need a few things. Could I wait a bit longer? I thought, well, I've got nothing else to do. I'll just go. And then there was no queue at the door, and it was just like celebration. And I thought, this is what my life's become. Like, there's no queue. I can just go straight in and get what I want and leave. And that's what literally every day is like. There's a small little random victories, but yeah, it's a lot of people I know are losing their minds, and everyone's stressing out, and I can't cope anymore. I'm so bored. And I'd say to them, like, what are you going to, this? I act like this is my retirement. Like, for a time being, like, if you retire, I know you can go outside, but I'm just thinking, right, what can I do with what I've got? Can I learn anything new, or can I read something different, or message people I haven't spoken to in years, or I don't know, just something different, and try and take it, because you never know what's going to happen, what's around the corner, how long we're going to be in this for. So it's just trying to make this the new normal, really. That's what I'm trying to do. So I thought, well,
I personally stay positive. It's not going to be this way forever. It might be this way for a few more weeks, months, the rest of the year. We can only speculate about that. I, as an individual who's not a specialist or a scientist, I can only speculate. But I do know that it's not going to be this way forever. And we were talking about in 5 years. In 5 years' time, we'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, do you remember when there was a global pandemic?
Yeah.
So, times will change. They always do.
Yeah. And again, like you say, time goes very quick, and we'll look back and think, man, I can't believe that. That's crazy. So, like in about, what's now, 5 days' time, it would have been a year ago since my first show.
Wow.
And that's, I think it was only about 4 months ago. And like on my Instagram, it comes up saying 1 year ago, I was whatever weeks out, and then 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out. And time goes very quick. And like you said, we'll look back in a year's time and think, man, that was crazy. I don't know how that happened or how we got there, but then, you just got to keep positive, keep smiling, and just take each day as it comes, and don't overcomplicate things.
Exactly. That's the best advice on this.
Yeah.
Take every day as it comes, enjoy yourself, and don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. We can't do anything else. We just got to do what we can do and enjoy the days. Yeah. No, brilliant. I like that. Anything else you want to add at all, or?
No, thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed myself.
No, brilliant. Right, that is the end. I think that's about nearly an hour. I think there's been a lot of good advice to a lot of competitors, current competitors, and potential future competitors to the pure elite and fitness pageant world. I think there's a lot that people can learn. Again, trust what Janine is telling you. If she's saying posing is important, it is important, and everything else, I take it all. And any questions you've got for me or for Janine, or any problems, just send us the messages. Make sure you follow Janine as well. And then, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Any queries? But no, that's spot on. Enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Janine. And I might have to do another one in a year's time and see where we are.
Yes. Sounds like a plan.
Brilliant. Right. I'll end it there. And
thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you, Janine.
Watching.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.